are listening to the Boston Celtics news feed. This is Celtics Roundtable. I'm Ignal, joined by Lucky's Pipe, joined by Jonathan Levy, and we are thrilled to be joined once again. Regular Step Back. He is host of the really great What's on Draft podcast. It's Cole Zwicker here. We're going to be talking about Celtics' future, really maybe their long-term future. A lot of the guys who participated in Utah and Las Vegas summer leagues. Cole's going to give his analysis of those guys. The Celtics, I feel like their plan A is to trade for a true superstar. That's why they're holding on to all their assets. If Anthony Davis somehow becomes available at some point, they'll certainly try and make a move for him. But, who knows? Anthony Davis, like a guy like that coming over to the Celtics, it seems probably pretty unlikely given the fact that he has 4 more years left on his deal. And as they get closer and closer, he's probably going to be eligible for the designated veteran extension. So, we'll see if he's really willing to turn down tens of millions of dollars. So, the Celtics might be looking at in the 2020s just kind of going into that decade with, the young guys that they've drafted, the Jaylen Browns, Jayson TATUMs of the world, maybe the 2 guys they get with their 2 upcoming golden picks. So with that in mind, if the Celtics aren't going to get a transcendent player through the trade, maybe they have a guy who could potentially be that on their roster. Cole, did any of the Celtics guys in Summer League stand out to you? Hey, this is going to be a future MVP.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but Jayson Tatum lived up to the expectations for me. I wasn't somebody, I watched a lot of Tatum tape, so a lot of things he showed I expected, but it was still good to see them. He did most of his damage in the mid-post and the mid-range area, only shot 10 threes, was 4 for 10 on those. But he was great on the defensive glass, especially, which you like to see from someone who will probably get 4 minutes. We saw his normal acumen as far as half-court, mid-post footwork, shooting prowess. Had some pretty explosive finishes that were kind of surprising, especially in Utah. Like that one tip dunk against the Spurs is really impressive. But for the most part, he killed in the post against shorter and kind of less stature guys who didn't have that kind of physical strength. We saw him beat up Bryn Forbes, Tokido, and TLC of the Sixers with step back, fadeaways, dropping his shoulder, some Dirk pirouettes. Like he made some ridiculous shots, man. If you pulled everybody at Utah and Las Vegas, they'd probably say Jayson Tatum was the most impressive player there just because of the high degree of difficulty shots he made in the mid-post. But we did see him beat bigger players in the face-up game with those deceptive jab steps, the spin moves at a triple threat to get airspace. He did struggle a little bit to separate against like the premier athletes. Like he played Donovan Mitchell, who really got into his airspace, clouded him up. He couldn't get past those guys at will, which was a little disconcerting. But I expected that. He was really never someone who had great athleticism as far as first step, explosiveness, and stuff like that. I guess the negative for me, which I'm not really that concerned about, but he just was not a very willing passer in Summer League. But I take that in context because he's not going to play the same style that he did in Summer League that he will with Brad Stevens as far as holding the ball, catch and hold in the mid-post. I think a lot of these guys, the coaches just want to see what they're capable of, so they take the reins off and they don't play the same scheme. So, yeah, overall, his defense was okay. He tried hard. It really noticeably stood out as poor against Philadelphia in that first game due to positioning. Got beat by a couple of athletes in space a couple times. He's never going to be a great pick-and-roll defender, but he's capable of switching, and he tries hard. So I think he lived up to expectations, and these high-degree difficulty shots were just pretty incredible.
With regard to his passing, and really just the Celtics Summer League in general, like with playing without a point guard, it just made it so that they just had to keep dumping the ball to him and saying, okay, go one-on-one. And he was actually pretty successful at the fact that he shot, people knocked his true shooting percentage in the Summer League, which is 52%. But I was thinking, hey, this is great. Look at the type of looks that he's getting. It's not like he's getting, spot up looks off of, pick and roll or anything like that. He's getting these really difficult attempts. But with his passing, when he got the ball, in the post, he was more or less looking to score the ball there. But in semi-transition, I saw him keeping his head up and making the simple play more often than not. I was actually, relative to my expectations, I guess I was more impressed, with his transition play. That's something that stood out to me. I don't know. What about you guys?
For me, the thing which was concerning to me ultimately, I was excited about the rebounds. Clearly, he can get a shot off, and I think he's going to be able to do that against, NBA defenses as well. End of playoff games, big shots, he can at least get an open look whenever he needs to. That's useful. But I am concerned. I've certainly heard this echoed throughout the NBA Twitter sphere, is the level, sort of the kinds of shots he's ultimately taking and seems to be focusing on are the least efficient shots in the league. You know, the kinds of shots no one's trying to take pretty much. And I know the Spurs, for example, sort of made a cottage industry around taking the mid-range jump shot again because everyone gives you that. So they take it, and that's one of the reasons why they got LaMarcus Aldridge. But is this really what Brad Stevens wants to do, is have a guy who's going to take, 3 dribbles and take a fadeaway with a hand in his face, like a 19-footer, like over and over? It doesn't seem like a great plan. I know the Celtics offense was really poor when Isaiah was not on the floor last year. So maybe, I know you're going to add Gordon Hayward anyway, but maybe when Tatum is with his second unit, he can help out. But I'm concerned about this. Should I be, or is this just summer league and it's nothing to worry about?
I mean, but you can't imagine that the Celtics are going to play that way. I think they like that Tatum can do that, but I don't think that's like plan A.
Well, if Evan Turner's right, the future is the mid-range. So I think he's going to be an all-star, personally. No, I'm a little concerned. He's going to be like AB. His first couple years are going to struggle, like points per possession. He's going to take a lot of, he feels more comfortable in the mid-range. He's going to shoot them. So it's going to, he's going to be hot and he's going to be cold. And we're going to have to, hopefully, he'll take more threes.
I think he's a decent bet to shoot well from 3. I always have. Like, the free throw percentage is a great indicator. He's a little stiff when he shoots it, but it doesn't look horrible. It's just a little mechanical. And I'm not that concerned about the offensive thing like we talked about. When you talk about hierarchy of shots in an offense, that's never going to be the Celtics' number one option. It's just throwing him the ball in the mid post. It's just not going to be that way. It's nice to have as your third or fourth option in a set. When the clock's running down, you need somebody who can create their own shot. I'm a little bit more bearish on that. Him doing that against elite competition. Like we saw, even Donovan Mitchell got into him and he was unable to kind of get separation from him. And he's going to see that kind of defender if he's as good as we think he can be. Eventually down the line, when he's going against primary wing defenders on the other team, starting guys, he's going to beat up guys he should beat up. I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from Summer League, is like some of these guys just can't guard him. Like, he's going to beat up smaller guys. Some of the bigger guys that try to step out and defend him on the floor, he's got that crossover. He can get to his step back. He can create enough space against those guys. But if we're talking about him as a high impact guy, he's going to have to beat these primary guys eventually, but that's down the road. So there's nothing right now that I'm alarmed with Tatum. He's exactly the player I thought he would be.
Right, exactly. All right, let's talk about Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
A little bit.
God.
All right, so let's frame it this way. Cole, the last time you were on here, and we didn't dive too deeply into this, so let's use that as an excuse to do it now. Yeah, you said you didn't see star upside, I guess, with Jaylen Brown. Obviously, there's a chance. But you seemed comfortable betting against it, I would say. Did Summer League do anything to sway your opinion here, or did it confirm your already existing opinion?
It more so confirmed it. I'm not going to say 100% that he's not going to be a star, but I feel pretty comfortable saying he's not going to be at this juncture. That doesn't mean he's not a good player. I still think he's going to be a contributor. He could be like kind of a fifth starter, a nice player. We saw the individual defense, when he can really sit down in isolation. He can definitely defend in that area. There's a lot of issues still with his off-ball defense, especially. Blows a lot of switches, rotations. I do like his body language. That's something that really stood out in Summer League. Like, he's really accountable for his mistakes. Like, you'll see him clap and he'll know and point at himself. It's completely different than Marquise Chris, who will just throw a fit about literally everything. So it was nice to see him kind of take accountability. He looks super coachable. I can see why the Celtics like him so much, just because he does seem like he takes information. I just don't see the intellect on the court. I've never seen it. I didn't see it at Cal via decision-making offensively. And we can talk about that with his offense, or defensively as far as off-ball defense, the ability to know where to be. He got lost a ton in Summer League even. And it's hard to judge Summer League defense. I mean, I normally don't do that. But when you have a second-year guy, my philosophy is those guys matter so much more than the rookies. If you're not shining, that one game we saw from Brandon Ingram was holy hell. I mean, that guy looked like he had been progressing all year. And Jaylen, for me, just looked like the same kind of athlete that we saw last year, that can still win against inferior athletes because he is that damn athletic. But just the skill game, the mental game did not look up to par to me.
Any rebuttal? You're Jaylen's biggest fan.
I'm just updating my Facebook status, with this what Cole just said, and also, before about the Tatum trade, that Cole Zwicker made me cry. So I'm just silently sad over here. Don't worry about me.
I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. I actually, the thing I'm highest on him about is the situation. I love his culture with Jay Crowder. We talked about this with Marcus Smart, with Brad Stevens. I think they're going to get the most out of him. If he went to Sacramento out of the draft, yeah, I would be like, this guy's probably going to be a bust because I just don't see the basketball instincts. He looks like an athlete on the court that can do a lot of things. I don't know what you guys thought about his handle. I didn't look great to me in confined spaces. He was fine in transition. That first game you guys touched on in Utah, he looked really, really good, but a lot of that came in transition. He had some nice footwork, some Euro steps. We know he's explosive. We know he's a run and jump athlete, and like individually he can win matchups. He was blown by some inferior guys like RJ Hunter, Josh Hart, even David Nwaba, who's a good defender, got picked up by the Bulls off waivers. Like, he beat him pretty easily. So his first step, that's never the concern. But like guys like TLC were sagging off, letting him shoot, kind of shooting the gaps and going under screens, and that kind of negated him a little bit. So I do think that whatever he is, I always called him like an athletic ball of clay. Whatever he is going to get optimized with the Celtics. I just never really saw star potential, and it's hard to project that when you know that star guys usually show those skills early. And if he's not showing that like in like dynamic fashion in the second year, he's probably not going to get there, but that doesn't mean he's going to be a bust.
No, I actually like Clay is like, he's not a point guard. He's not going to give you creating, in transition or anything, but I think it hinges on his 3-point shot. If he can figure that out to get it good, and then they have to like contest him on the wing, and then he can blow by people if he doesn't have the shot, or if he does have the shot, he can take it and make it. Like, that's kind of where, then he becomes a pretty elite player. Because I think the defense, I saw improvements throughout the year. He still had lapses, but, Stevens was more okay with playing him in bigger spots because, one-on-one, which there's a lot of one-on-one basketball still, he was pretty good and one of the better, more flexible, versatile players they had. So I'm still pretty high.
You mentioned his shooting,
and
what I noticed in summer league, you go back to like his old footage at Cal where he used to hold the button down for too long. And it seemed like he would like often shoot on the way down. You knew that would be corrected. But in summer league, to me, it looked like he was still sort of working on his form. And I was actually pretty impressed with how his shot looked. I know he didn't shoot it too great from three. I'm actually seeing here, not too bad, actually. Overall, he was, 6 for 20. That's not great. It's not terrible either. But I thought his form looked a lot better, like quicker. It looked more compact than I think we used to see it. I think that he's done a really nice job ironing it out. So at least in that area, I thought that he made some mechanical improvements there. All right, anything else on Jaylen Brown before we move on?
I still think he's probably going to start for the Celtics.
Yeah, at the 2?
Yeah.
I'd say Smart starts, but I'm okay with Jaylen starting.
Well, my thing is that Jaylen Brown's always better when he's like surrounded by better players and can attack the worst guy, and could just, they could slot him in the corner, hit those corner threes, those rim runs that he does, blowing past the Kyle Korvers of the world. That's where he's great.
I could echo the shooting. I mean, I really think that's what stood out to me is like his shot looked more fluid. It looked projectable. And that's where his value is going to come. I see him as like a 3-and-D kind of player who can, if they ever respect his shot, like him attacking closeouts is just going to be ridiculous because that's when you get that run and jump explosion. And I think he can get enough of a pass on the move to where he can make a drop-off pass. But for the most part, he can really finish at the rim on the run. So if he can shoot above league average, maybe like 36 or 38%, if that's his ceiling, like that's a really valuable player. If he can shoot the ball and he can play defense and defend multiple positions. So that's kind of what I think of him as, not really necessarily a star player, but maybe like a superstar role player at his ceiling outcome. And he's in the best situation possible to get there. Yeah,
and he could get to the free throw line a lot with just how aggressive he is getting to the rim. He's not at least afraid of like getting to the free throw line. Now, whether he'll actually make his free throws there, that remains to be seen. But he does have
man.
No, but he does have an attack mentality that I really like. Who also has an attack mentality? It's the guys at HelloFresh and gals. The meal kit delivery service that makes cooking more fun. We believe in equality on this show. So
that's right.
At HelloFresh. Jayson Tatum respects women. So do the people at HelloFresh. So do we here at Celtics Roundtable. Each week, they create new, delicious recipes with step-by-step instructions designed to take around 30 minutes so that everyone from novices to seasoned home cooks short on time can make tasty meals. They source the freshest ingredients measured to the exact quantities needed so that there's no food waste. And how many, Levy? How many full-time dietitians?
I think the number is 2. 2.
Was it?
2.
who review each recipe to ensure it is nutritionally balanced. They deliver food to your doorstep in a recyclable, insulated box for free, and they now are offering light summer meals and have just introduced breakfast options. Now, loyal listeners of this show will get a very special offer. Get this, because you are a loyal listener to the Boston Celtics newsfeed, use the promo code BEAT30 for $30 off your first week of HelloFresh. Again, support Celtics Roundtable and try HelloFresh for free. Simply visit HelloFresh.com and enter the promo code BEAT30. Okay, Cole, I'll let you take it away here. We'll talk about some of the other guys. Let's start with perhaps, well, Ante Zizic finished well, but all right. What lucky wants, lucky gets. Ante Zizic, starting center for the Celtics, maybe? No.
Who knows?
He did look better as time went on, but I think general consensus around Boston is that he needs to get in better shape before anything else happens, and then he can be, an energy big off the bench, maybe 10, 15 minutes this year. What do you think?
That's exactly my takeaway. That's my first thing in my notes is he looked better in Vegas than Utah as time went on, and that he looked bigger than I thought, more out of shape, a bit lethargic, less bouncy. Like, that's what I liked about him. Maybe not the most explosive athlete, but he was quick off the floor when I watched tape of him internationally. He didn't really look like that guy too much. He didn't really help him recover well in space. Decent job with verticality at the rim, but was not bouncy as far as impacting shots there. He's going to be more of a, he's an energy guy, like you guys noted. He's a third big. He's always been that for me. I thought that his stats profile, like we talked about last time, was a little overblew his profile as far as what he can do on the court. But he is going to be, I think, in time, a guy that can be a rotation player in the league potentially. As an energy lob catcher at times when he has that space to do it. He's not a gravitational force there, but he can make plays there. And that's kind of who he is. I mean, it comes down to how good he is on the glass. I don't think he's going to be a high-level rim protector, but if he can challenge enough shots and play in space better than he showed, I think he can be okay. So I'm not, out on him completely, but I've always had more, I think, tempered expectations than the guys who, in the redrafts, you saw a lot of guys saying this guy would have been a top 10 pick in this class. I'm not sure about that. I think he could have gone lottery, but he would have definitely been outside the top 11 for me after that kind of cliff dive.
His per minute numbers once he got to Vegas, they were pretty ridiculous, especially rebounding. And Kevin Pelton says that rebounding is one of the things that does translate from summer league to the NBA. Zizic, not a guy with an outside shot or anything like that. Is the rebounding enough to compensate for the fact that they're not going to be able to play their normal 5-out style that they play so often, and with back when they had Kelly Olynyk, for example? All right. Good.
No.
We need the rebounding, though, right? Don't the Celtics badly?
No, I like.
Sure, but at what cost?
Yeah.
I
better rebounder than Zeller, though, who was the best. So.
I mean, no, but you want more than one skill, right? He doesn't have to do everything out there, but you'd maybe he rebounds and protects the rim, or maybe he rebounds and shoots threes.
Hey, he gets defensive rebounds and offensive rebounds. That's
okay. Well, my mistake.
Both sides.
No, I hear you. It's going to be a problem probably, but at least those 10, 15 minutes he'll grab some boards, right?
I mean, all these guys we're talking about, they're young. They can all exceed their expected growth with good coaching and the right mentality and a little bit of luck. So I never want to pencil anyone in, and who knows? In 3 years, Ante Zizic could be pulling a Brook Lopez, taking 5 threes a game or whatever.
I think at the very least, when he gets in better shape, he can change ends of the floor, and that's what you're looking for. I mean, the Celtics play at a super high pace, so even in a limited role, 10, 15 minutes a game, eventually he can change ends, and he can play well enough as far as in space, I think, if he gets in better shape, to survive on the court. All
right, let's move on. Chevy Ojeleye. Most people seem to be pretty impressed. I would count myself among those. Lucky's pipe, he loves the combat muscles. He's going to join Marcus Smart and Jay Crowder in that division. Yeah. The 3-point shooting looked like it was going to translate from what I could tell. That nice little compact form was impressive. He was defending fives pretty well. I think that even with this short wingspan, I could see him defending small ball fives. I mean, he doesn't need to put in on any more muscle to do that. He's got it already. What do you think of him, Cole?
Well, you touched on the main thing as far as him being able to anchor against bigger fives. Like when they played the Lakers and Zubats, he was able to, with his lower body girth, kind of box them out at times. And that was a huge advantage offensively because they just pick and pop Zubats to death with Sammy popping out for threes. So that was cool to see. I think he defended it in space a little bit better than I thought he would. You saw him stay in front of some point guards like DeJounte Murray in Utah. That was impressive. He fouled a couple times, but it did look like he was fleet of foot enough to be okay there. We know he's incredibly strong, functional strength. His main offensive gift is going to be spacing the floor. Like, he's not really going to create anything for you. I was kind of disconcerted with like his finishing ability. Like, it was something that I was really concerned with coming in. He didn't finish well, like adjusting around the rim. He's just not that flexible. If he doesn't have that kind of run and jump off a closeout to like explode in space, I'm not sure how much craft he has around the rim. Some people are higher on that than I am, but that's just something to look for. I was more impressed with him than not. He's someone that definitely stood out as someone who could potentially switch a couple positions, box out, hold position there. He's not going to protect the rim or really rebound at a high level, but he does have value, and I do see it translating in a rotation role.
So like Draymond.
Without the assists, I didn't see those. Dunks, threes, and
some defense.
Defense, yeah.
What do you think about his shooting, Cole?
I liked it. It was compact. He looked comfortable. I thought he looked better when he prepared for the shot. He caught a couple off the hop. He caught a couple that he wasn't really in rhythm, and I didn't think those looked as good. I think he had a couple air balls in that setting. But overall, I do think he's going to be able to shoot the NBA three. You can kind of tell just based on – I don't look at the stats too much. It's such a small sample. It doesn't really matter that much. It's more about comfortability. How fluid does it look? He definitely passed the eye test there. So I think he'll be able to hit spot-up threes. I'm not sure if he's going to make anything on the move as far as coming off like a screen or anything like that, but he doesn't really need to. He can set his feet well enough off like a pick and pop if he's ever in that situation to do that, even though I think a lot of NBA teams would just switch actions with him involved to negate that action because there's no point. He's not going to post anybody up like a point guard or anything and score. So he can't shoot the three. And if he can shoot the three and defend in space relatively well, I think he's going to be a player.
Valuable role player.
Cole Zwicker, everybody. He writes for the Step Back, as I mentioned, once on Draft Pod. We're actually going to get into some draft talk, 2018 draft. Celtics might have 2 picks there, but you're going to have to wait until next week to hear
top 5.
Even though we are about to record it. But if you want to stay up to date on what we do, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to CLNS Media. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you like listening to us on the go, please subscribe to the Boston Celtics newsfeed, available on your favorite podcast app. We want to thank Cole Zwicker for joining us for these past couple of podcasts, and we want to thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.